So I do not know what's going on in the ATP. I just don't have the bandwidth. So, wish them luck.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Body Serve. I'm Jonathan.
I'm James.
What a difference a slam makes. Because we're sitting here having had a completely different finals weekend experience than we did not more than a few short weeks ago at the French Open.
Results will vary depending on who you stand, but for us, I knew that the high of Roland Garros would have to come crashing down eventually. And for me, it happened here.
Mm-hmm. We have the improbable Iga Swiatek as a first-time Wimbledon champion, 6-time Slam champion, double bagel winner over Amanda Anisimova on the women's side. And we have Jannik Sinner, he of untold fortune at this tournament, taking out Carlos Alcaraz in the final in 4 sets. I think a lot of folks were hopeful for a very good women's final after the semis. Amanda had just taken out Sabalenka in 3 sets, and Swiatek had leveled up to trounce Bencic in the semifinals. Mm-hmm.
It was a weird tournament overall. There was very little rain. It was extremely hot for quite a bit of the tournament, including the opening few days and finals weekend. That changed the nature of the surface. Many of the seeds went out early. A lot of those grass court spoilers we were talking about, Vondrousova, Bublik, out very early. On the women's side especially, it was almost impossible to call until it became so obvious that Iga Swiatek is back with confidence, and why wouldn't you pick her, you know?
Well, I think I said on the last episode that she was the favorite from her half.
Yeah.
And you could see it in real time from match to match, where Iga was looking like Iga again. And not without reason. You saw the tangible changes, the tangible improvements, the things that she'd been working on coming to fruition in the matches. And by the end of it, it was a stunning performance.
It was. And we've seen Iga like this many times before, especially in finals. She's won a number of finals where she's lost merely a handful of games, less than 5 games. When she gets to this stage, she's almost unbeatable. For her, the clay season was such a huge disappointment, but it also gave her more rest than she's used to. She actually had time to regroup and work on things for grass without dealing with all that fatigue of winning, 4 tournaments in a row or whatever. This sort of confidence boost, she's the type of player who can ride that. We could be entering a new Pax Romana, right? A new Iga peak era if we're not careful.
If we're not careful.
Yeah, if they're not careful.
It sounds like that little slip there tells the listeners quite a bit that they may want to know.
Right. We'll get to a discussion we had in the car yesterday where you called me a hater. I think I was misinterpreted.
I think you're doing too much, but we'll get to it.
This double bagel. It was the second double bagel final in the Open era. Everybody knows the Steffi Graf double bagel at Roland Garros in 1988 on the way to her Golden Slam. She beat Natasha Zvereva 6-love, 6-love in only 34 minutes. 32 minutes by some sources.
Until yesterday, Dorothea Lambert Chambers was the only winner by double bagel in Wimbledon history, and that happened in 1911, and that was the 5th of her 7 titles. She had also played the longest women's final up to that point in 1919, 44 games where she lost to Suzanne Longlot.
Yeah, so she had some of the early superlatives in Wimbledon in that pre-Open era.
If you recall the first Wimbledon episode when we came back from England, I had said that I caught the final 3 or 4 games of Anisimova's opening round double bagel over Putintseva. And if this is not some kind of dastardly bookend for this woman.
Not dastardly.
It was, to start and end a fortnight of Wimbledon tennis with double bagels meeting one out and then being on the receiving end of the other in that moment. Your first ever slam final. Good luck to her to try and put that all into perspective. It seems as though she has a super level head on her shoulders.
Yeah.
Based on her post-match press conference. Based on her acceptance speech of the runner-up plate after the match. But it was tough to watch. I didn't watch it. I listened to it. The match started while I was walking through the door to go to work. And so I listened to it on the radio. And by the time I got to work, it was 6-love, 4-love.
Yeah, I don't really know what to take from the match itself. It seemed to go by so quickly, and Anisimova simply had no answers. It's like she wasn't really there. You know, this incredible ball striking that we had heard about all Fortnight, the angles, the power, it wasn't happening, right? She had very few winners, tons of errors, and simply had no answer. Iga is the worst player playing today if you're having a bad day. Iga with confidence, who's reached a final, she's not going to give you anything. She's not going to give you a game just to make you feel better.
One of the biggest differences between the two was the footwork in this match.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw exactly what it is that Swiatek and her team were working on. Ben Rothenberg published a piece in Bounces where he spoke with the 3 key members of Iga's team as to what were the goals leading into Wimbledon, what types of preparation did they hash out to try and prepare for this task of turning Iga around on grass. And one of the main things that they said was working on her footwork, which is kind of crazy because everybody knows Iga has some of the best footwork in the history of the game, man or woman, right? But it needed to change from sliding on the court to taking smaller steps.
Yep.
To get yourself into position to handle the invariable bounces and whatnot.
You saw on display these past 2 weeks her superior athleticism, the way that she could twist and bend, and there were times when she was leaning on her knees in ways where most people's ACL would pop in a moment. Meniscus gone. She just has incredible flexibility and balance, which most people, like, you're not going to teach most people that, right? She just is superior in that way. But, you know, you can technically slide on grass, but it's not advisable, right? She was getting into position. She was rushing her opponents like she does on other surfaces.
The main improvement for me with Iga at this tournament was the serving. I think it began and ended there. All the other improvements were just supplemental stuff to make the package even prettier. She averaged 111 miles per hour in her first serve in this final. Earlier in the tournament, I skeeted. Is that what we're saying on Blue Sky? Because we're not on Twitter, even though we've been accused of it. I skeeted that since when did Iga ramp up to 118 miles an hour in the first serve?
Yeah.
It was a stark difference for me watching her. The control that she had on the first serve, the power, the consistency. Throughout the course of her career, everybody's talked about how the second serve is a weakness, that if you need to get to Iga, you need to jump on the second serve. Well, she didn't really give you many options to do that at this tournament. Mm-hmm. And that is something you do on grass if you are a good grass court player. That is one of the hallmarks of being a good grass court player. And when Amanda got herself into this match, down 3-love in the first set, trying to find her footing, the only way to do that is if you're able to break serve.
Right.
You know, granted, she was never able to hold serve, but even if she did, Iga's serve wasn't... I mean, it was just impregnable this tournament.
Mm-hmm. And Amanda's serve is not great. It's not among the best. And Amanda's strategy in this match would have been to try to hit through Iga, and that wasn't happening either. So it was just forcing a ton of errors. In that interview with Ben, Wim Fissette said that they zeroed in on footwork, as you said, and the serve as the two things that are inhibiting her most on grass. And with the serve, particularly, it was working on spot serving rather than keep going to the body serve.
Of course, Amanda did the hard work of taking out Sabalenka in the semifinals, winning 6-4, 4-6, 6-4, but neither woman had a particularly horrendous path to the final. Anisimova started with a win over Putintseva 6-love, 6-love, then Sarasua, straight sets, Galfi in 3 sets, Noskova in 3 sets, Pavlyuchenkova in straight sets. Swiatek, for her part, she opened against the younger Kudermetova, straight setted her, 1-3 against Katie McNally, who is back from injury, straight setted Danielle Collins, as well as Clara Tauson, as well as Samsonova, as well as Bencic. I mean, these are still quality wins. I'm not gonna be here giving credence to the folks who want to say that Swiatek had a cakewalk to this title. And that includes the person sitting right beside me.
Listen, to win a slam, you have to beat the 7 people who are in front of you. There's no asterisk. There's never an asterisk. I believe that very strongly.
Iga just lost to Danielle Collins.
Yes, in Rome, I believe. This was a weird Wimbledon. A lot of the big players, both of them were supposed to play, weren't there. Anisimova, for her part, took out probably the presumptive favorite at that moment, number 1 Sabalenka. But there's no arguing with Iga winning the final 20 games of this tournament. That is nearly unfathomable.
That means that she won the 12 in the final and the final 8 against Bencic.
Right. And so, do I wish we had some more exciting quarterfinal and semifinals? Certainly. Samsonova, I was happy to see her there because she's so great on grass, but I don't feel that she's a big match player, if I'm being totally honest. And Bencic simply wasn't there due to injury or whatever. She could not put up a fight at all.
Was not mad about that.
Well, what we were kind of arguing about yesterday was I was trying to make the point clumsily, I guess, that the transition between these different surfaces is much different, that is easier than it used to be. You kind of thought I was a hater for this, but I was actually trying to stick up for Iga Swiatek's elite skills in pretty much every area of the game. To me, it never made sense that, okay, Iga can't win on grass or she can't figure it out, because she's so skilled at so many things. I felt it was a matter of time. Now, I was surprised that she won this tournament this year, but I didn't really see the reason why she, or even Coco, or anyone else can't adapt what they do well for grass. I think grass is different these days. The literal grass is probably different. The surface was, it gets worn down. It was very, very hot, which probably helped Iga here. And there are just no grass court specialists anymore. Any of them were knocked out a long time ago. Maria, Vondrousova, Jabeur, I don't know who are they. Who are the grass court specialists? There's no serve and volleyers. You don't have to contend with that for a multitude of reasons. I just think the transition is different. The top players in the men's game can win on any surface, and that's expected. So that was my point.
Yeah, okay. Grass is different than it was in 1995. I still think that there is a sizable difference between clay and grass, and the turnaround is still so short, and the rigors of the tour demand so much that it becomes still a very difficult proposition for somebody to work on their grass game. It's not something that's innate. Iga showed that it takes a lot of work to be able to do it, and that she is, we know, infinitely more gifted than most other players. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I buy the comparison between her and Coco that necessarily will happen for Coco, that she could do it, because I think the grass deficits are greater for Coco on the surface than it is for Iga.
Yeah.
And Iga had the benefit of time at this tournament to be able to do it. She had the benefit of a couple more years as a top player on the surface. Year over year, being able to make inroads into the surface.
Yeah. There are so few opportunities to play on grass for everybody.
The ball still responds differently to grass than it does on clay.
Yeah, of course.
Like you saw it in person. Mm-hmm. The bounces are different. Fine, you get through the first few days of the tournament where the grass is slippy, where it's more full, more lush, And then the baseline dries out because nobody's going to the net, nobody's playing serve and volley tennis. Ben Rothenberg did a piece again in Bounces where he showed images of what the grass courts would look like over the years at this tournament. Whereby, say, in the early 90s, the service line would be more tore up than it is now. Now it looks almost still pristine in week 2. The baseline didn't look as dug up back then. Now it's completely tore up. That absolutely affects the way the game is played now as opposed to then. Which is why I think you're saying, in part, that it's easier now to make the transition. But I still think it's very difficult. And I'm being stubborn on that front. So
But
there's
that's
that.
fine. We're allowed to disagree. I didn't say it wasn't difficult. I'm just saying players of those generational levels of like her skill set is just too vast not to be able to make this transition. And it took some dedicated work and a really good coach. She's only 24. You know, it's not like she waited until she was 34 to win Wimbledon. I know Justine Henin is punching the air right now because she had to face Venus Williams.
Sabalenka is punching the air right
Well,
now.
and she should be. Amanda said that she didn't practice the day before the final because she was so fatigued. A lot of people, and myself included, found that kind of alarming.
Some people said, wow, I'd have taken that to my grave.
Yes. You know, I believe her when she said she was tired. She spent more hours on the court than Iga. If you'd like to know, I did a little addition. Iga spent 8 hours and 55 minutes on the court leading into the final, and Amanda was on court for 12 hours and 42 minutes.
I just saw the calculator up on your laptop upstairs, and I saw 762 being the answer, so I'm assuming that's what you were calculating.
Yes, it was. So she spent more time on the court. She played 3-set matches, took out the number 1 player. But don't underestimate the nerves going into a first slam final, impacting her energy, and the prospect of playing Iga Swiatek in any final. I think there was probably a lot of psychological stuff impacting her energy level as well.
Nonetheless, it's a fantastic overall result for Anisimova. She's going to be number 7 in the world come Monday. Had she won this title, she'd be up to number 5. Amanda had her big breakout at just 17 years old, reaching the 4th round of the Australian Open in 2019. Followed that up by making the semifinals at Roland Garros. 17 years old, seemingly the world at her feet. Like, she was anointed. She was to be the next one. Later that summer, her father passed away.
I think we saw in her speech this poise and a sense of realism. Obviously, she was devastated by the loss, but you don't get the sense that this is going to destroy her. You know, and I think part of that is that she's already been through the worst, right? She experienced this incredible loss as a teenager, as her career was really exploding. And then we go into COVID, and then, you know, her results sort of slip and ebb and flow. She takes a break from tennis from May 2023, returns in the following January of 2024. Her ranking has plummeted to the 440s, and then kind of slowly makes her way back.
I mean, at this point, it's not slow. It's
No.
18 months and she's number 7 in the world. And so there's a lot to be proud of, despite this final result. One of the weird things about listening to the match on radio was how even before the first set ended, the commentators were talking about the prospect of a double bagel loss and framing everything that was happening on court through that lens, which I felt was disrespectful. And then also, they have the people calling the match, and then they have like a studio where they send it back to the studio, and then those people are yapping at 1-0 in the second set when the players are changing ends. They had somebody out on the grounds talking to Iga fans, and then there was a woman from Ohio supporting Amanda right beside them, and they wanted to get their opinions, which I can assure you were not needed. And then this woman from Ohio is talking about Amanda, saying, you know, it's just so amazing what she's done since she's come back from having a baby.
No. Wow. And that went unremarked upon?
Well, what do you say in that moment? You have 30 seconds to get this trite, stupid segment out, and this mess is now part of it. Do you waste 5 seconds to try and get into it with Miss Cindy from Ohio?
Someone in the studio should have corrected the record. It's so strange to me that Amanda is younger than Iga. She's still only 23. I feel like she's been around so long. I think because her breakthrough was before COVID at Roland Garros, and that feels like a generation away. You know, that was Ash Barty's first slam.
Iga, for her part, has now won all 6 of her slam finals. She ties Monica Seles in achieving that feat. Roger Federer won his first 7.
And at this point, who's going to bet against her in a slam final?
Her haters, of which I'm sure there are many. I, for one, am happy to see this development because I do believe we need somebody else operating on that level alongside Sabalenka at the back end of tournaments. I'm tired of going to slams trying to see who is going to be the one to stand up, to step up. I need to know that this other person is going to be there, you know, personally.
Well, that's not a problem on the men's side. There are 2 guys who are so miles ahead of everybody else that this was the final we were expecting.
Not me.
Really?
No, I did not think that this was a guaranteed Sinner final. I did not think
Djokovic?
that a healthy Djokovic was going to be an easy out for Sinner. Mm-hmm. As it turned out, he didn't get a healthy Djokovic. And he also got a bye into the quarterfinals as well.
Yeah, so let's start there. You know, you're probably going to call us haters, but let's just be realistic here.
I will bathe in it because I'm still so disgusted that this happened to Grigor Dimitrov. Bringing the best ball he's played in such a long time. In fact, over the last year plus, he's played some of the best tennis of his career, only to be undercut by his body, to be betrayed by his body time and time again. In this run of 16 match, he's up 2-0 on serve in the 3rd set when he tears his pectoral muscle.
Yeah, and it's not the kind of injury that you can just fight through. He couldn't even lift his own arm by himself. There's no guarantee that Grigor would have won this match, right? It's 5 sets for a reason, but the momentum was very clearly on his side. He was beating Jannik at that moment.
Right, even if he loses that match, Jannik still has to go 5 sets. Mm-hmm. He still has to play 3 more sets with the injury he himself picked up in that match. Who knows how that turns out?
Right.
How that plays out throughout the rest of that match, the preceding match, how it may rear its head in the final. He was so lucky to have that happen that day.
Yeah, and he knew it. In his speech, he was embarrassed. You know, he didn't want to count this as a victory. I thought when Grigor came back to the court and used his left hand to lift up his right arm to shake the umpire's hand, like, that says so much about Grigor. And I know this is corny, but you don't have to do that. You can't even lift your arm. I think everybody would be fine if you didn't shake the umpire's hand, you know, but that's just who he is.
And because I am bitter, I also want to talk about the fact that Sinner did all the prerequisite nice guy stuff.
Yeah.
You know, checked on him, picked up his racket, stood with him, da-da-da, da-da-da. But when the trainer comes over, it was so weird. Jannik went and sat in his chair, and then he came back over to Grigor while the trainer was there, and Grigor was talking to the trainer about what's going on with him physically and medically. And Jannik's just standing there listening. Like, I'm not saying it was untoward or malicious or he had intent of doing anything nefarious. I'm just saying it was weird.
Yeah, you don't sit there while there's a medical assessment going on. You're friends, sure, but you're also still opponents in this match. So you got to go back to your seat.
There isn't a template or, you know, a manual for how to behave in these situations. Mm-hmm. Granted, some players have been through it more than others. I haven't. So I can easily sit here and be a nasty bitch about it, right? I get that. But I do think that was a line that was crossed.
Yeah. Grigor has had to retire from, his last 5 majors?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a shame because it seems like his game is working better than it ever has, but he's 34 now. And things are just kind of falling apart. In the semifinals against Djokovic, Djokovic beat Koboli in the quarters, suffered this injury, I think, with 1 point to go, 1 or 2 points to go. It twisted really weird at the baseline. And then it was very clear early in the match against Sinner, he couldn't move. He couldn't move to the corners. And if he did, he couldn't get himself back out. So you saw a lot of points that he simply had to bail on. He had to watch winners fly by him. So it was a kind of a painful experience to watch this match because never at any point did you feel that Djokovic had a chance.
He's down 2-0, finds himself up 3-love in the third set, and then loses 5 games in a row. When does that ever happen to Djokovic other than playing Rafa Nadal?
Yeah, I mean, he even, he tried serve and volleying on his serve and was pretty successful for a lot of it, which shows that these players, even the elite returners, have very little experience returning serve and volley. Jannik seemed thrown. I mean, his serve was on point for a lot of it, and that was one of the only things that was working, unfortunately. So Jannik had an interesting road to the final here.
He also took out Ben Shelton in straight sets in the quarterfinal before getting to Djokovic and then facing Carlos. Now, this final... Carlos was a mess in this match. Carlos did not play well at all.
No.
And in previous matches, when he may not have his best stuff, he's still able to find the magic. This thing that he does where he comes up with crazy stuff to keep himself in matches and win them, that did not happen in this final.
Right. It only happened in the first set. He was down a break in the first set, wins 4 games on the trot, and the set point was just incredible because he's running around his forehand and leaving a lot of room open, as usual. Jannik knows that. Darren Cahill told us that they practiced for that. He leaves the court open, has to run back to his backhand side, and just flicks this impossible backhand pass to win the first set. And at that point, I was like, oh, here we go. The magic is here, right? The momentum is fully with him now. And for the rest of the match, it just seemed like the spark wasn't quite there. And I don't know if he was just having an off day or he was sort of cowed by how relentless Sinner was off the ground. And it may be a combination of both.
The drop shots weren't working.
No.
They certainly were not working. Some of the worst drop shots he's ever hit in his career, frankly.
But I mean, they just weren't even making it to the net, practically.
Or if they did, they were making it way over the net.
Yeah.
A lot of clearance of the net, landing by the service line. This was not a Carlos performance that we're used to. Maybe it is indicative of where he was at this tournament, being stretched to 5 sets in the opening round against Fabio Fognini. Maybe that was a harbinger of what was to come.
And he took it easy in Ibiza this year. He didn't go as hard, but he's won 24 matches in a row. He was probably exhausted. He maybe came into this final a little bit mentally fried. I don't know, that's what it felt like to me. Like his energy level wasn't quite there, and a lot of that might have been mental. But when Sinner's serve kind of woke up in the second set, it really felt like this is not going well, right? Bar some spectacular magic from Alcaraz, it looks like this is going in the wrong direction pretty fast.
It wasn't until the third set that Sinner had his first ace. An incredible stat. Carlos was well into double digits, but also had near double-digit double faults. It was just an erratic, messy performance overall. He didn't seem to be able to stay the course in rallies. He bailed out of rallies quite a bit, in fact.
Yeah.
And it was nowhere near what we saw at the French Open. Granted, the first 2.5 sets of that match were not great either from Carlos, but he was able to find something. One thing I want to talk about, and it's something that I've absolutely had it with, is these American commentators. It's as if they've signed a contract that at every turn when we are uplifting and acknowledging the lofty achievements of the American women, that they must all follow up by saying, oh, don't forget about the American men. The two are not the same. The two are not the same. No. This was the fourth straight slam final that featured an American woman.
A different American woman.
A different American woman.
Each time.
There are now 5 American women inside the top 11. 4 inside the top 10.
Which is a number that you used to see in the early 2000s.
On the men's side, Fritz is at 4. Shelton is up to a career high of 9. Then there's Tiafoe at 11. Tommy Paul at 16. So you've got 4 inside the top 20. Mm-hmm. It is still a lot of mediocrity. Taylor Fritz has been the standout.
Oh, definitely.
But even then, his shortcomings are glaring in these big matches. The two are not the same.
Yeah.
I'm tired of it. I've had it. Stop it.
Taylor has asserted himself as the clear best of the bunch, best of his generation. He's been consistently ranked the highest American. He's the only one of those guys to reach a slam final. And credit to him, I felt like he had a really good tournament. I felt like he played well against Alcaraz, but it seems that Taylor can beat everybody he's supposed to beat, but he's not beating the people in front of him. And that's just kind of where we are, where we're stuck.
You know what's delicious after this event? That guy was a stone's throw from being number 1 for quite a while early in the season, but failed so spectacularly. And now he's still at number 3, but he's 5,700 points behind Sinner right now.
Okay.
It's never happening.
Why are we talking about that man?
We're in the ATP section of it. It is something that happened. He lost in the first round, and this is a follow-up from that, now that Sinner's won the tournament.
Mm. Ben Shelton said that nobody on tour hits with the type of pace that Sinner does. That is relentless. It's suffocating. Carlos can hit ground strokes as big as Jannik, but his game isn't always relentless power and pace, right? He's capable of it, but Jannik does it so consistently that he just grinds people down. And to me, this final was an example that we haven't really seen in a while versus Carlos. Carlos has been on this winning streak against Jannik and has been able to counteract that relentless pace. Today, he wasn't really there.
It was a 5-match winning streak against Sinner.
Yeah.
That's something. That's something that nobody
totally.
else is doing. Nobody else even has won, really.
No.
Over the last 2 years.
I mean, it was easy to forget that now that he's won Wimbledon, he was 1 point away from the Serena Slam 3 times. 3 championship points at Roland Garros. He was that close to winning 4 slams in a row. And now, like, I'm glad that there's variety in this rivalry. There has to be ebbs and flows, but I'm afraid that we're entering a period of Sinner dominance that I'm not really interested in.
Because based on how it's played out with the US Open win and then the winning in Australia, this could be 5 of 6 come the end of January.
Right. We're going into 2 hardcourt slams. Nobody is touching him anywhere else aside from Carlos. I know a lot can happen in tennis. It's very unpredictable. It's just hard to see, like, who is it going to be?
You have here noted on the agenda as we wrap up the results portion of the singles play that 2 players who served doping suspensions in the past year have won the tournament. This is not an accusation. This is a fact.
I do have that. I did write that. And this is not haterade. Hateration. It's the truth. It's an awkward, uncomfortable truth about the state of tennis right now, that your number 1 player, your unimpeachable, dominant male player, served a 3-month suspension on an anti-doping charge. That was a negotiated suspension after his original ruling was appealed by WADA to the CAS. It happened in a very convenient time on the calendar, and that's just something we have to accept. We have to live with. Iga served a quick, silent suspension, which I thought we weren't doing anymore, for something that was much less serious, but still, it's just an awkward truth about your 2 Wimbledon champions. Not saying they're cheaters or that they did anything purposely, but uncomfortable.
2 final things I want to say and add about Iga at this tournament before we move on. One being that, of course, we know now, or we've known for a while, it's talked about often, that she was the Wimbledon junior champion. in 2018, but she was also the French Open doubles junior champion in 2018, alongside Katie McNally, whom she beat in the second round here at this tournament.
Really? The same Katie McNally who just won the Newport 125, beating grass court specialist Tatiana Maria in the final?
We'll get to Newport in a little bit. I also want to talk about how we've talked about Iga this year, about how it's been a calamitous season, right? That's been the tenor of much of the discourse around Iga Swiatek this year, and that's based on her performances outside of the slams. This was her first WTA title since the French Open last year. She had come off of making the final in Bad Homburg the week before Wimbledon, so she's made back-to-back finals now. But in fact, this has been her best slam season since 2022. In both 2023 and 2024, she won the French Open and then had a quarterfinal elsewhere. In 2023, it was at Wimbledon. She had made the fourth round of the Australian Open in 2023, as well as the US Open that year. And then in 2024, she made the quarterfinal at the US Open and then third rounds at the Australian and Wimbledon. This year, she made the semifinals in Australia, had match point, right, against Madison Keys, lost that third set super tiebreak to Madison, very close to making her first Australian Open final. And in fact, that's one of the performances that her team pointed to Iga as evidence that she could make changes on grass, because she hadn't been super successful in Australia, but this year she was so close to making that final. And then she made the semis at the French Open. So what was previously seen to be a lost year to date is now shaping up to be what could be a very good one, depending how she plays the rest of the season. Does she make another semi at the US Open? Does she win 3 or 4 more titles the rest of the way? It may end up not looking that dissimilar to Aryna Sabalenka's season, who is considered to be the runaway best player on tour. Mm-hmm. Again, evidence of just how quickly these things can change. We saw it with Coco when she won the French Open. These narratives that we create for these players on a week-to-week basis, they change within seasons.
In doubles, we had fan favorites Shea Sue and Yelena Ostapenko in the final versus Mertens and Kudermetova. Veronica. Shea was clearly the people's choice on social media to win her 5th Wimbledon title, actually her 6th Wimbledon title if you include mixed, and Penko was going for the possible number 1 ranking in doubles. Alas, well, not alas for the other team, but Mertens Kudermetova beats Shea Ostapenko. Mertens has been in 4 Wimbledon finals in this decade and 1 semifinal, and she's won 2 of those. This is her 5th major and Veronica's 1st, and they've also won the 2022 tour finals together.
In mixed doubles, Siniakova adds another one to her resume,
winning with Sem Verbeek, and sorry, he doesn't have a pronunciation on his ATP page. They beat Stefani and Salisbury. This is Siniakova's 11th major and counting. She took out the number 5 seed in the first round, didn't get it done against Naomi, but she said, I am going home with some kind of trophy. And then in men's doubles, we got the British pair of Cash and Glasspool beating Hijikata Pell. There were actually 3 British men in the doubles and mixed doubles finals. Salisbury, Cash, and Glasspool. Last year, a Brit won in doubles, Henry Patton. The previous year, Neil Skupski won in doubles. They just have a deep bench as far as men's doubles.
Electronic line calling. Something happened during the round of 16 match between Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova and Sonia Kartal.
Or something didn't happen, was the problem.
An egregious call went against Pavlyuchenkova. Plain as day, a mistake. The umpire didn't feel compelled to override what he thought was a working electronic line call system. After the match, we learn that the ELC was off for the entire game and that it was human error. Now, personally, I don't believe that. I don't believe anything that's coming from the tournament with regards to this or the people who run ELC. Like, it is a complete PR nightmare to have the public think that this thing was just wrong while it was on. That
Right.
there's no way they could cop to this thing being on and wrong, right? So the only alternative, it could very well be true, but I'm not giving them the benefit of that doubt because I've stood on business for a while now to say that ELC is not as amazing as the institutions want us to believe it is, right?
You've got 10 toes, and last time you checked, they're all still there, right?
Yes.
The funny thing is that they have told us over and over and over that this is infallible, and now they've just proven that it's not. And even if it's true that they said an operator unintentionally, like, unclicked one set of the cameras on the computer, if that is true, that still means that ELC is infallible because it relies on human beings to operate it, right? There's no completely foolproof system. We talked about this with Courtney. It reminded me a lot of this conversation because the fact that there is no plan B when something like this happens is incredibly human. You know, we've replaced humans with automation, and when the automation fails, we as humans have no recourse. The chair umpire is there. Why? At this point, why are they there? They noticed that ball was 6 inches long. I mean, anybody could have seen it. Why can the chair not do anything except to replay the point?
Especially on grass when the chalk is there to fly up. Like you have a built-in clue
Right.
on the surface.
This wasn't a close call, right? It didn't really need a zoomed in replay. Why is the chair umpire powerless to overrule ELC if it's malfunctioning?
We got a listener question from Shola. He asked, Wimbledon posted the entire golden set on Instagram and was wondering which active player you think has the most golden set potential. I figured it would have to be someone who has the audacity to go for broke often enough and the game to back it up. My pick would be Ostapenko.
That golden set was won by Yaroslava Shvedova over Sarah Errani at Wimbledon.
The recipient makes sense, given the serving woes.
Right.
Or lack
right.
of serving prowess from Sister Sarah.
Yeah, I think you'd have to be facing a weak server.
Which is to say then that it's not just who you think could do it, it's who you think is going to be on the other end of the net as well. That necessarily has to play a part in it. I don't know if I'd go with Penko simply because I don't know that I would trust her serve to be golden in that set. And so that's the thing that I look for most. An aggressive player, yes, but also one with an often impregnable serve. And so I would go with Rybakina.
Oh, interesting. I also wouldn't pick Ostapenko just because I think if you go too big, like if your game is too audacious, you're just more error prone. You're not going to make every big ground stroke. And that's why I wouldn't pick her. Even before the results of this tournament, I swear to God,
Iga?
Hand to God, I said Iga. Only because Iga is the one I trust in big moments. She's the one who has the bakery named after her. And I think she's less error prone than most of her elite peers. And I mean, we kind of saw that in the final.
But also, I don't think it has to be an elite player. It probably would come from a player who is...
Well, that's true. Shvedova was not an elite player.
No. It's probably going to be out on court 72 with not many people watching, and you'll see the score and be like, huh?
Yeah. Okay, a lot of you noticed...
Did we explain what a golden set was?
Oh, I mean, I feel like most people would know, right?
We shouldn't assume.
Okay. A golden set is one in which you win every single point of the set.
On serve and return.
Right. So you've won 4 points per game, times 6, you've won 24 points in a row.
Thank you, Andre Agassi and Stephanie Graf, because you have been pretty much solely responsible for the reappearance and the reintegration of Justin Gimelstob into tennis, so much so that he was sat beside Andre Agassi in the royal box today.
They have. They are fully responsible. Gimelstob is also involved in the PTPA, but Andre's presence has legitimized his return in a way that the PTPA could have never. Andre reached out to Justin personally to help orchestrate Andre's return to the tennis world now that he and Steffi are empty nesters, now that fill in the blanks. Why they want to come back to tennis, you can guess for yourself. I don't know. But they've been notably absent for pretty much 2 decades.
He's been getting a lot of praise for his commentary since the French Open. I've seen it ramped up at Wimbledon, where folks are really enjoying his commentary. He seems to be somewhat ornery on air in that he's not about the platitude life. When these commentators try to be all colorful and flowery and paint the picture, he's like, actually, no. Like, let's not do that kind of stuff, which is refreshing.
He's great. He's so great.
But this is an instance where he is not.
Right. Speaking of the PTPA, the funder, the main backer of the PTPA, Bill Ackman, who is a hedge fund billionaire who is very famous in the United States for being kind of an activist investor. He's very involved in politics.
I thought you were going to say
culture.
asshole.
Well, that too. Bill Ackman has dumped, reportedly, tens of millions of dollars into the PTPA, and we have questioned what are the motives? Why does somebody spend that much money on the PTPA? What are their ultimate goals? That's not what this is about.
This is about payola, because Ackman said that he wants to get ATP points. And so this whole thing was orchestrated, where initially he was supposed to play with Nick Kyrgios at the Newport 125 tournament. And Kyrgios, who is perpetually injured, chronically injured, couldn't do it, so Jack Sock, he put his hand up, and he was the useful idiot in this scenario.
Yes.
And so they play doubles against who?
Bernard Tomic and Omar Yasika. Bernard is back. He beat Chris Eubanks. I didn't know. You pointed that out to me.
I mean, he never left. He's just having a few results now.
Right. This is the first year that Newport is a 125. It was downgraded from a 250. It's also the first year that they've had a women's tournament.
I mean, downgrade it to a 25 after this
At this point. How it worked was that Jack got the wild card. He's a former doubles champion here in Newport. Jack is now a pickleball player. And, I mean, even toward the end of his professional tennis career, he was woefully out of shape. He was just not in condition. So he gets a wild card here. He chooses Ackman as his partner, and the ATP had to approve. And they did.
I recommend the listeners, if you have not seen it yet, pull up video of this match, and you will see just how absurd it was.
Yeah. If I can recommend some reading, actually, on this incident, Paul Campos at the blog Lawyers, Guns, and Money wrote about Bill Ackman playing at this tournament, and Gary Nathan also wrote a great piece which provides a little background, and they're both refreshing departures from the uncomplicated celebration of wealth that usually happens in tennis. What we saw was patty cake bullshit tanking.
Yeah.
It was a true embarrassment. Andy Roddick, I know, went off on this.
It was worse than you could imagine. It really was. Because I could play in this match. Honestly. I could have played in this match.
Yeah.
Like how do you expect people to take the sport seriously if stuff like this happens?
Yeah, and Ackman is somebody who is obsessed with meritocracy, right? That's his chief philosophy, is that if we don't have meritocracy in this society, we're doomed. So he was able to buy his way into the Hall of Fame Open. He was not qualified. He's 59 years old. He's a good recreational player, but he was utterly unequipped against these professionals. Then after the fact, he's a big poster. He's known for this. He writes long-ass tweets. I don't know how he has time, but he said, I've accomplished what I set out to do. Like clockwork, he and his wife have donated $10 million to the Hall of Fame. He said, my point was to create virality around this tournament and around tennis, and I've done it. Like most extremely wealthy people who believe in meritocracy, please remember that merit is for us and not for them. The rules are for me and not for thee.
Merit is for the poors.
Exactly.
He's also been highly involved in trying to make sure that Zoran Mamdani does not become New York City mayor. Essentially saying the checkbook is open for anybody who wants to run and make this not happen.
The corruption is so blatant in American political culture right now. He said there are hundreds of millions of dollars available to any challenger to Mamdani in the mayoral race. He was backing Andrew Cuomo, the canceled, disgraced former governor of New York State. Now that Cuomo lost the Democratic primary, he's pressuring Cuomo to drop out, and he's backing the corrupt incumbent mayor, Eric Adams.
Sport, and in this case tennis, plus politics exist. Period.
Sport is always political. This is a man who thinks that he can buy anything he wants. And in the United States, he's proven that to be true. The only thing he couldn't buy was a match win on the ATP.
Well, unless he had it fixed. But to that end, this match wasn't even allowed to be bet on. That's how much the people who are in charge of these things know just how much bullshit it is.
Mm-hmm. That this was a farce. In the United States, I find, as an American, success in business and wealth is seen as virtue. It's seen as inextricable from virtue, that there's some moral good assigned to being successful. We allow billionaires to meddle in things they have no idea about. And when I say I don't know where he finds the time, I don't know where he finds the time to write 2,000-word posts on Twitter, where he finds the time away from his WhatsApp group with the Israeli war cabinet and American business leaders, which he's talked about extensively, between trying to get Ivy League presidents sacked, between organizing quote-unquote counter-protests on American campuses, trying to dox Palestinian supporters. Where does he find the time to do all this?
And the ATP has shown a willingness to do business.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This is somebody who is funding the organization that's challenging your existence, the ATP, but yet you still allow this to happen. That was weird to me.
It was. And I think they probably said, well, if we deny it, what's going to happen? They're scared. This is a man who's shown he can bully you with his money. He has disproportionate influence over things that he's not qualified to be involved in. I just want to say it's very fitting that this farce occurred at the Newport Casino, which was the playground of the robber barons in the Gilded Age. It's where all the New York wealthy did their summering. You can see it on the Gilded Age, the TV show. Literally the same place where Newport tennis tournament is held and where the Hall of Fame is built. These hedge fund billionaires and tech founders, these are the robber barons of our age. The difference is that they have no culture. They contribute nothing. They don't build Grand Central Station.
And they have no morality. There's no moral center. One of the best things to come out of week 2 of Wimbledon was Sally Jenkins' piece on the McEnroe brothers, specifically John McEnroe. She's had it. She's fed up. Like us, and like most of you listening, for years we've been saying this. It needs to end. He needs to go. It's beyond bad.
Yeah.
Right? And so, listen to this opening paragraph. Please, someone in American television, break the McEnroe grip on tennis microphones. Belching up words is not broadcasting, a craft John McEnroe never learned. Johnny Mac has become an entitled air coiffer, a lapsed past master turned trifler who refuses to work at it. Witness how he tends to butcher the names of anyone not ranked in the top 5. As for younger brother Patrick, he burps out banalities with the same offbeat affect as his bro, apparently believing it passes for alert observation. You need Pepto after listening to them for 2 hours.
First of all, Sally Jenkins has been writing about sport for more than 30 years. She's written a bunch of books. We've used a lot of her tennis writing in some of our historical episodes. A very respected writer. Look, can we talk about the internal rhyme in lapsed past master turned trifler? The alliteration of burps out banalities. Like, this is a very well-crafted paragraph. Love this. And it's the kind of time you get when you're a columnist to write creative stuff like this. But wow, find me someone more dedicated to hating John McEnroe. Because she also did some videos for Washington Post on their socials promoting the piece about how much she cannot stand John McEnroe. I love the commitment. She then went on to list the number of commentators who she feels are better, with one sneak. It was very generous to put Chris Evert in that list. Generous and false.
Apparently Tim Henman said that McEnroe was, quote, hours late for calling the Roland Garros men's final.
Yeah.
Which just means he did no prep work.
Right.
He didn't come in, he didn't listen to the producers, go over what needs to be talked about, what have you. He just showed up and winged it.
Yes, he was also literally late to the match. So he, I guess, doesn't go to the production meetings where they give you the little tidbits that you're supposed to, listen and take notes. He was actually late for the match. And people just shrug their shoulders. It's John, he's going to be late all the time. It's fine. People keep saying that John McEnroe used to be a really good broadcaster. But then when you interrogate further, they said he used to be a good broadcaster in 1992. That was 33 years ago.
While he was still playing.
I didn't watch tennis in the early 90s. Many of you were not born.
The point is it's a shtick, and the shtick gets old. Right? If you do something for long enough, you have to find ways to reinvent yourself, to keep yourself fresh. He's done none of that over the years. Let alone the bare minimum of doing your homework.
Right.
Or showing up on time.
Just being a professional broadcaster.
Or appearing that you give a shit.
His brother is a more natural broadcaster. He's a little more prepared, but doesn't really give us anything interesting. The thing is, as a tennis fan, and someone who never played at a professional level, obviously, I want to learn when I'm watching tennis. And those are the things I feel like when I listen to Lindsay, when I heard Andre, certain people who are especially skilled at this.
Mary Jo is pretty good at it, too. Yes,
Mary Jo. They're teaching me things about the game. They're teaching me about strategy, about shot selection. They're looking at footwork. Why do I have to listen to these three guys who give us absolutely nothing? Fowler and the two McEnroes in this men's final shed no light for me. No insight.
I promise you, the day before this news came out, I was thinking to myself, because I'd come across so many videos of Venus's current press tour where she's talking about dealing with fibroids and not being diagnosed properly or not being given the proper treatment over the years. I thought to myself, enough distance has happened now where I can safely say that I attended Venus Williams' final professional tennis match. And less than 24 hours later, that was proven to be false.
I didn't know about the fibroids, actually.
Yeah, she was saying that even, I think it was the 2016 Wimbledon final, Serena was playing singles and then she was waiting for her to play doubles. And she was in so much pain, and no matter what type of pain meds she took, she did Tylenol and she did Advil, nothing was working because she was in so much pain and she wasn't being diagnosed properly.
Right.
But the point at hand here is that Venus Williams has accepted a wild card to play in DC, which is happening very soon.
And she knows about it this time, and she confirmed that she is actually going, unlike Indian Wells.
The tournament starts Monday, July 21st, so we are a little over a week out from Venus Williams returning to tour at age 45, having not played a singles match in, 16 months?
Since Miami of last year.
March 2024.
Yeah. Recently turned 45, although they don't celebrate birthdays.
I'm not going to say anything about this. I'm just going to have it play out. If I can watch it, I will watch it. And wishing her luck.
One thing you made me punt to this episode because the previous one was getting too long is I wanted to just talk about London, just our experience in this city that we've never been to the UK at all. And I've been so excited to see London and sort of overwhelmed just because there's so much to see. I feel like it would take a lifetime to see, everything and history around every corner, kind of like Rome.
This is news to me because I've said many times I wanted to go to London and you showed me none of this enthusiasm.
I didn't.
The point here is that you had a great time. You really enjoyed London and you wanted to come back here on this episode and talk about some of the other things that you experienced. One of these things here is not something you enjoyed.
Oh, let me get this out of the way first. I don't want to end on a negative note. They have boats that take you across the Thames to different parts of the city, very much like the ferry system in New York City. In London, it's called the Thames Clipper, and now it's being run by Uber. So it's called the Uber boat. Firstly, I will say we went on a weekend, on both Saturday and Sunday, so it was crowded. They're all about safety, so if there are not enough seats for people, you do not get on the boat. Right? They turn people away at the dock.
That's fair.
It is, but it sucks. Not I mean, that sucks, right? You could be, because you're waiting another half hour typically, or longer. I will say this is the risk of privatizing. Wasn't on time.
Wasn't it always privatized? It was always a private thing.
It was, but I'm just comparing to my experience on the New York City ferry run by the MTA, a government organization. That shit is on time. To the minute. It runs more frequently, it's reliable, and the Uber boats, they just weren't that girl. I wanted to love it so bad, and they just were not that girl.
The MTA ferry system is significantly cheaper.
Exactly.
But it takes significantly longer to get places.
I don't agree.
Oh, well, that was my experience. So there.
I'm sure there are days where it is the coolest way to get around London and where it's quick. On Saturday and Sunday, it was not. It was really inefficient. And it was so expensive.
Yeah, that was the main thing.
Yeah.
It was, if you're not giving precision and a great experience, you can't be charging that much. I'm sorry.
No. And when you're stuck inside and it's 93 degrees outside and there's no AC, it's just not a fun experience. You're just baking inside the boat. There's not a lot of outdoor space.
May that please be the final time you mention having no AC in England.
Fine.
The final time. Never again.
Okay. So I won't mention it on the underground. No.
Well, New York City subway is infinitely more stifling and hot
it is, and
than the London Underground, and there is air conditioning in New York City.
I know.
So consider that.
Well, I'm not allowed to talk about it, but they say that the reason the stations in New York are so hot is because of the HVAC system on the trains, that they're pushing out so much hot air and everything. In Toronto, amazingly, our stations are very cool. They're actually a really nice temperature, and the trains are air conditioned, so I don't understand the science.
Well, maybe
I wish someone would explain it. I don't get it.
Probably because Toronto's subway system is 1/60th the size of either of those two metro systems.
But I don't understand how the ventilation works. Anyway, London Underground, amazing. You can get anywhere. It's so extensive. I loved it so much. And plus all of the overground connecting services, it was similar to Berlin in that way. Connect from the subway to the street level and the overground trains. I loved it.
Did we talk about the Globe Theatre in the last show?
No.
You sure?
I'm sure.
Okay.
That was a highlight for me. I wanted to go there and we sprung for a tour. We actually got to see the theater while the company
Actors,
the company of Merry Wives of Windsor was doing a technical rehearsal. So we weren't allowed to take any photos that included the actors. But we got to see their tech rehearsal, which is pretty cool.
We sat in the theater while the rehearsal was going on. They were basically trying to get the staging and positioning down, more so than working on acting and, how you're delivering lines kind of thing.
The transitions.
Because they opened the very next day. And so that was a really cool experience to see this live production behind the scenes, how it's put together. Mm-hmm. And sitting in the theater with it being open air, it was really cool. I'd never been in a space like that before. Of course, it's not the actual Shakespeare theater because the majority of things that existed back then were burnt to smithereens.
Right.
With the Great London Fire in the 1600s.
Yeah, 1666, I think.
Yeah. That was something that I wasn't aware of in going to London. I just expected a lot of old stuff to still be there, but it's just not.
Right.
So there's a lot of recreations, but this was really cool.
I think London has done such a better job than a lot of other cities in integrating its heritage architecture with new architecture.
Slavery?
What?
It's heritage?
No, I mean old architecture. Heritage, heritage buildings.
Oh, heritage buildings. Okay.
But yes, and in a way that Toronto is just really, really bad at. Toronto will keep a really important building, gut it, and use the facade as the base for a 60-story tower. It's the stupidest thing ever. It's constant.
That was my first impression of even just taking the train in from Gatwick. The architecture in London is so much more interesting, and the way things are built is so much more interesting than Toronto.
Yeah, the new buildings are much more original, a little experimental.
Some thought went into it. you know? People like to look at buildings. We are also not those girlies who are into stuff like the Burj Khalifa. Like that type of architecture is not our milieu. You know, like that doesn't impress us.
The financial district was my least favorite part of central London just because I felt like, oh, this looks like Toronto. Like I've been here before. But seeing the Roman Wall was cool. Seeing Southwark. I know a lot of Southwark is kind of rebuilt, but there were still some medieval ruins and stuff. Loved it down there.
Yeah, maybe London will become your new Rome. Because you're already talking about, I can't wait to go back. There's so many other parts of the city I didn't see. Oh, do you think we'll do Wimbledon next year? Because then we could go see this, da-da-da-da. That's how Rome played out. I've been 3 times now.
Has it been
3 times or 2 times?
You've been twice.
Twice. That's it?
Yeah.
It feels like 5 times.
Wow. And then I realized we were in Bloomsbury without knowing it. And that's where a lot of the literary sites are in London, so I kind of missed all that. We're in Bloomsbury at like midnight.
Anyway, that brings us to the end of our Wimbledon experience. It started with a bang for us personally being on site. It ended with a whimper on championship weekend. Unless you are Iga Swiatek and Jannik Sinner, the ramifications of Iga's win might be felt for a very long time on the women's tour. I'm personally here for it. The men's winner, not so much. I'm just being honest here.
Yep.
You know? Not my bag.
Shortly after this episode comes out, we will share with you part 2 of our interview with Courtney Nguyen. Again, thanks so much for all the comments and everything. I'm so glad that so many of you are so happy to hear her again.
Thank you to everybody who helped make our Wimbledon trip happen, not least of which the listeners who contributed to our GoFundMe last year, or friends and colleagues who helped us while we were on site, listeners who met up with us. You all know who you are, who helped make this a wonderful experience for us, so thank you. My name is Jonathan. You can find me on Blue Sky at Tennis John.
I'm James at ElliotJMR.
2 L's, 2 T's. Everything BodyServe related can be found at linktree.com/thebodyserve. Thanks for listening.
Till next time.
Thank you very much.